USL is coming to Reno, Nevada. The U.S. Soccer Federation weighs in on college soccer. We talk Sharks who play soccer, that and more here on Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kickaround. We talk about the world's favorite game happening right here in the United States of soccer. My name's Robert Kerr, local soccer guy to my side, Jason Davis, radio soccer guy. Together, we dot the map on Morning Kickaround. How you feeling today, sir?
It's Friday. It's good. We're ready. We're dotting the map today. That's always a cool thing. Not in a couple different ways. Actually, three. I think we're dotting the map in three different ways. We're dotting the map with a new club that got announced yesterday that's coming to USL. We'll tell you about that. We're dotting the map by talking to the people behind Corpus Christi, which is launching very soon. And we've added a new member as well. Brandon, welcome to Morning Kickaround. Welcome to, as we all click the button to try to get Brendan on this. We're going to just keep doing it back and forth, and somebody will eventually get Brandon on the screen. There he is. Brandon, thank you for joining and becoming an Ultra.
Yeah, Friday off to a flyer on the technical front, but the content is dense and good. So much to talk about. I mean, the white paper on college soccer is pending. There's a lot to dig into there. We talk about the Shark Coast and the jump from the amateur ranks to professional world, and dotting the map. New club there in Reno, Nevada, just announced. So lots of stuff off the press. And we also got lots of member content to talk about, lots behind the membership paywall. So if you are a subscriber, thank you so much. Doesn't cost you a darn thing. If you want to step up your support of the show, just a touch, $3.99 a month gets you an MK Ultra membership. And we will get into all the various perks, including bonus content, as we get into the show. You can also contact the show for any sort of reason, business interests. Shout out your region, your club, or some sort of movement happening in the American soccer landscape. morningkickaround@gmail.com. You can also support the show outside of that.
Can I add, Rob? I know you're doing the whole thing, but I mean, again, we want to grow the MK Ultra group. We want to get more members involved. You already teased some of the things that we're going to be that we have available to members right now. You can get access to that behind the scenes content, obviously the bonus videos. We got something big we're going to talk about later. But Rob also got a little bit of a peek behind the curtain over at NISA. So if we can get to our goal today, which I think I set it at three new members. If we can get to 3 new members today, we'll count Brandon. That's one, right? Brandon came in last night. We'll count Brandon. If we can get 2 more members, Rob will give us some dirt on what happened at the NISA tournament just the other day.
Yep, I made the trip just a little north of me and looked at what it looked like to restart a shuttered soccer league. No easy feat, and I got a little bit of a boots on the ground look at what that looks like for NISA. So you ready to start the show here, sir?
Let's do it. Let's dive in.
Let's kick off Friday's long balls here on Morning Kickaround. Starting the show with some core content. We are putting another dot on the map, this time Reno, Nevada. It was announced just last night that Reno, Nevada has been awarded a USL Championship franchise. And along with that announcement, some pretty interesting stadium renderings.
Yeah, look at this thing. Now, this is being reported as a plan for a 6,000-seat stadium in Reno. Now, obviously, because of where we are with USL and its plans and that kind of thing, we have to slot this into, well, they can't be more than a USL championship team. They can't be a first division team. At least we don't think they can based on that capacity. But obviously, getting any soccer stadium built in this country, period, is an achievement. It does look like, as somebody on Blue Sky told me, it does look like a bunch of cyber trucks were gathered together to make the roof for this thing. I suppose that's it's hard to get the sense of angle on parts of this stadium, Rob. There's some optical illusion things happening here. I imagine this has got to be a relatively cost-effective roof solution, because I think the total bill for the stadium is being reported is about $80 million,
80
which is
million, 6,000 seat stadium is the
not a
report.
crazy amount of money, right, to build a stadium in America. So if that's the plan and they got a roof around the whole thing, well, then that's got to be a very cost-effective roof. And that's fine. Like I'm not criticizing it. I'm saying we have to get to a place where cities like Reno can have soccer stadiums that aren't going to cost $500 million, so that we can build them and teams can play on them, and there can be teams and dotting the map. Right? That's the deal. We're dotting the map across the country.
And as with all these announcements, there is the customary Justin Papadakis quote, with the World Cup on the horizon, excitement around the corner for U.S. soccer. The sport's never been stronger. Reno Pro Soccer's arrival couldn't come at a better time, backed by local committed ownership, a passionate community, and plans for a first-class stadium anchoring a new sports and entertainment district. Reno is poised to become one of the country's top soccer destinations.
It's always got to anchor a new sports and entertainment district.
Mixed use, bro.
With stuff going on, some shops that you can, a promenade. We got to have a promenade, Rob. What is a soccer stadium without a promenade next door?
I am glad, while the angles are TBD of what that actually looks like. I think this picture that you got on screen, the other one shows a little bit more. Yeah, this one shows kind of a little bit more like, it looks more like a real roof from underneath. And it could be kind of the first picture might be a modest design just with a kind of futuristic roof might be
I like that's what I'm saying. Like, this is pretty much 4 stands connected, and then let's figure out what the roof can be and how much that. Again, $80 million is not a ton of money when you talk about stadiums, but of course this isn't going to be big either, so we're not talking about a lot of reach. That roof is not going to have to cover that many people. If it's only 6,000. And you can see, I mean, I guess there's always that question. I guess one of these ends, let me go back to an interior shot of the stadium. Okay, this is from one side of the field to the other. Obviously, that's not it's not a very deep, stand, and you got a concourse on top of it. This is what I was hoping for. I guess this is towards the end. We can already see in that first rendering, because there is a behind the goal stand here, where sometimes what you see is like only one end of the stadium will have a stand behind it. But of course, if it's relatively small, this stand, and you can imagine for a team like Reno, for a city like Reno, their supporter section doesn't need to be 15,000 people or 10,000 people. It needs to only be 1,000 people deep or whatever. So, and look, in the chat right now, by the way, shout out to Christian, who's become a member, so that we are very close to our goal today to do a little bonus at the end of this. Pablo saying that this is one of the most unrealistic stadium renderings I have seen yet, but I sincerely hope they can pull it off. That's the thing. Without knowing the details of how you build this stadium, Rob, I don't know that it's unrealistic. It does to me immediately when I saw it. I was like, yeah, okay, sure. But, let's choose to believe. Let's suspend our disbelief for a second.
I'm curious if Pablo thinks the design is unrealistic and how it actually looks, or just the actual rendering is it an unrealistic portrayal of what a stadium looks like. Because the Port St. Lucie rendering was pretty unrealistic the other day. That raised the bar of putting a computer graphic on just like a Google map sort of.
I'll give them credit. Now look, I've been around for a minute when it comes to stadium renderings in America. They very, 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 very rarely ever look like what they're rendered as, right? The end product does not necessarily resemble the original renderings, because things change. Look, even if it's not about cost, it's about, well, that actually didn't work, and like we had this thought, but it didn't really work, and we got to change it on the fly. That happens. So I again, I want to suspend disbelief, but I'm also a cynic when it comes to this stuff. I imagine some things will change, but this is not the most ambitious project. Like, Guitar Reader saying it looks like more than $80 million. I that's what it looks like to me too. But again, I think it's the size of it that is throwing me off, because what I've seen many times over are 20,000 seat stadiums with these ambitious ideas that don't come to fruition, at least initially. So there is that.
If nothing else, from these renderings bears fruit, at least the roof. I mean, we all know Reno, Nevada, desert-like conditions. Even in the renderings, a whole lot of sunshine there. It'd be pretty brutal to have people sitting out in the sun for an extended period of time through the
Well,
summer.
hold on. Let's before you are somebody who has been to Reno, Nevada. I have never been myself. I want to make sure that we are giving decent information. Some people will know. Okay, it gets to be in the mid 90s in July and August as an average high. So yeah, I mean, I guess, and there's very little rain during the summer months in Reno. So if it gets that hot, you do need things like this in order to protect the fans. Okay, so yeah, comparing this to other 5,000 seat stadiums, it looks ambitious. Yeah, because usually 5,000 seat stadiums are super cheap to build because they're very small and they're basically just like an elevated soccer complex facility. This is beyond that and only 6,000 seats. I don't know if it's expandable, Rob, if that's something that they're thinking about. I mean, we're already at the point of hearing about potential expansion in places like Louisville, knowing that that team wants to be a first division team for USL when they get there. And that's something I think just came out this week that Louisville is talking about potential expansion of their building to get to 15,000. So again, there's a spectrum here when it comes to stadiums, and we can add at least Reno in terms of the awarded franchise and the plan. We can dot the map with Reno, and we'll see about their branding. I'm interested in that too.
Yeah, still more to come with this. It's called USL Reno, so we'll have a whole nother wave of announcements to come for sure. The lead investor is a gentleman called Todd Phillips, and the rest of this group is led by CEO Wendy DeMonte, gentleman founder Bob Enzenberger, and former national team player and MLS player John Doyle. So there's a couple names in the mix for the group leading this effort, and I thought it was interesting. This will lead clubs to new rivalries, including Detroit City, Louisville, Sacramento Republic, and Vegas Lights. I thought that was interesting that they dropped Detroit City as potential new rivalries. But yeah, lots of infrastructure on hopes and dreams being built. You name dropped Louisville earlier on, but it would be with USL's Pro Rel prospect in the future. It would be kind of, I don't know, irresponsible to have a stadium that has 5K capacity that doesn't have room to grow. Maybe that's a question we can follow up with them at some point in the future between now and their launch. You know, is there room to grow with this if you are trying to get promoted?
We are always skeptical of clubs and owners and groups that promise too much initially, right? We do have that problem in American soccer. People shoot for the moon and come up way short. And in some cases shooting for the moon actually leads to the club disappearing, dropping off the map because they've spent too much money in that bid to shoot the moon. So I'm okay with some reasonable ideas of what they can be, at least initially. And by the way, I'm seeing that, Lynn Family Stadium is getting mentioned here in the chat. 11,000 seats at Lynn Family Stadium, and again, they want to apparently grow this. They have 15,000 with standing room at Lynn Family Stadium, and this is, we're talking about 5 years ago that it opened, and more that it began construction. But the reported cost of Lynn Family Stadium was $65 million. So if you can build Lynn Family Stadium for $65 million, what can you do with 80? And again, different locations, different requirements. Again, what was $65 million then is probably $80 million now, at least in terms of inflation. So there's that.
So we'll see what happens with Reno USL Championship and what their branding looks like, what their name will be. Plenty more to come. But another pin drop on the map of pro soccer in Reno, Nevada. Long ball number 2, we should start it all off with celebrating Kai Velmer, our third new member of the day. So hitting a membership drive goal here. So that's very exciting. Glad to see all the members in the chat too jumping in on the conversation already this morning. But we've got some exclusive member-only videos in the mix on the channel right now too.
Yes, we do. Your look at NISA and the tournament, and then we obviously we actually been teasing this for a while. We do have a new video that is only available to members right now that is all about the questions around USL's big plans for First Division and Pro Rel. Definitely want our members to dive in with their comments and their responses to that. That will go public and live for everybody starting early next week, because I think it's an opportunity for us to sort of move beyond the audience we currently have. We're excited to have the number of people watching and joining with us. But here's and I do think it's a thing that hasn't been done yet, which is really kind of lay out all the stuff that's in front of USL as they steam towards these big ideas.
Yeah, as I mentioned in the previous little news story, there's a lot of infrastructure happening to try to meet PLS standards, and one of the big outstanding questions is, how are waivers going to be distributed? And there's a lot of construction and big time logistical planning going in on, if I want to be a D1 league, I need X amount of seats in a stadium. So these questions do need answers. And in our bonus video, we highlight a whole litany of questions that we put to USL's front office themselves. They didn't, they replied politely that they weren't going to, divulge any information at this point. So we are, and, the public is, and I'm sure some teams at some level are still searching for answers. Is like, do we need to build more stadium? I mean, Detroit City FC, we saw them increase their initial plans to go from a 12,000 seater stadium to a 15,000 seater stadium. And Family Stadium, we talked about, Louisville is like the leading USL, soccer specific stadium. And, they dropped news this week that they're going to try to add a third deck. So these unanswered questions have huge ripple effects, not only from fans, people like us, but also the teams themselves.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Again, we wanted to lay out all the questions, and I encourage members, MK Ultras, go watch the video now, and everybody else. I mean, become a member right now so you can get access to it, so you can be part of the conversation, so you can kind of see what we're looking at in terms of the scope of the things that are in front of USL. But because we got nothing from USL, and I'm not saying that they're stonewalling us, but I will say, again, talking about over promising and under delivering, when USL made their announcement way back in March, they said updates to come in the next few months, right? In the coming months. When you say coming months, you don't mean 6 months. You mean next 1, 2, 3 months. But also it's worth saying that you have to get it right. If you're going to do this, you're going to take on a project as complex as what USL is doing. And I admire the bravery of USL to choose this, even if there are some self-serving reasons to do it, which we definitely talk about on a regular basis. I think that you have to get it right. So we're not saying, oh my God, I can't believe USL gave us no updates, but it does leave an information vacuum, Rob, which is the thing that I'm so fascinated by. Is like, where is this idea of how you're going to, and just to mention the PLS again, is it possible that the PLS fundamentally change ahead of 2027-28 when USL is planning on launching these things? Sure it is. In fact, USL may be engaged with US Soccer on changing those PLS, which is part of the reason we don't have an update. But we just don't know, right? What the best we can do right now is presume that USL is going to have to meet the standards that US Soccer has in place at the moment in order to sanction a first division soccer league. And without a first division soccer league, without sanctioning from US Soccer, there is no pro rel pyramid. You just don't have enough levels to make it make sense. You could do USL League One to USL Championship, but I don't think that that's what's driving the investment and the excitement. What's driving the investment and the excitement is that you're going to have a first division league where these teams are playing in 15,000 seat venues. Everything is a little bit more glitzy, a little bit more glamorous. You're selling this as a TV project, as a broadcasting product to some entity that can help you bring in more revenue, which then allows you to have levels below that. So, man, it is intense right now. And again, there's an information vacuum.
Yeah, and that's really why we made the pre-produced videos, to really iron out, because as we were going through it, like, oh, what information are we still waiting on? And our list, between Jason and I, our list kept on growing and growing. So we wrote it down and, wrote a letter, trying to get information to try to update everybody on what's going on. And the list of unanswered questions became vast. So we took it upon ourselves to make a pre-produced video to try to include all of the various different angles of implications of what the news being absent, what implications are out there.
Yes.
Still.
And I want to address a couple of things. So Riverside Grove, PLS was written by MLS for MLS. The commitment to the dollar signs remains strong. Thank you, Riverside Grove.
New member still.
But that's okay. That is not pertinent to the discussion of whether or not U.S. Soccer can, whether you want to go back in time and look at the way that U.S. soccer and MLS were in bed together and it caused all these problems and et cetera, and it was all unfair to the rest of soccer and it put MLS in this predominant position, and that was sure, okay, litigate those things, absolutely litigate those things, but those are the standards at the moment. We as normal people have no sense of whether or not those are going to change fundamentally. You can sort of logically connect some dots that are like, okay, Rocco Camiso took U.S. Soccer to court, and ultimately, even though he did not win that lawsuit, U.S. Soccer spent a lot of money defending themselves from allegations of collusion around the PLS and around the way that U.S. Soccer sanctioned leagues in this country and their relationship with MLS. And they certainly don't want to go down the path again of being sucked into a money pit of spending all this cash to defend themselves. How resourced USL is to challenge in court what U.S. Soccer does, I don't know. And I think they would rather decide to go and deal with U.S. Soccer up front and say, hey, look, we want to start a first division league. We think some of these PLS standards are wrong, or the professional league standards are wrong. They're slowing us down in terms of growing. We don't think that's good for soccer, much less our business. And if you restrict our business, obviously that could potentially be illegal and we could take it to court and you could lose a judgment. So it benefits everybody to deal with these. But again, we don't know where they're trying to massage them in, if they even are.
Yeah, well, time will tell, and we'll obviously have more on that. And become a member. Thank you to everyone who's become a member already during the show. Fantastic to see that. But members can see that video. The huge questions still remaining for USL in the age of promotion and relegation. So become a member. Check that out.
Yes, and if you are looking for the link to the Discord, a new post is going up on the YouTube channel right now that will have the link to the Discord that will work for you to join. So there you go.
Yeah, for those uncommitted so far yet to becoming a member, there is a Discord server where there's a whole litany of great conversation threads from just general conversation, introductions to new members, MLS conversations, USL conversations, local soccer conversations, and more on the members only Discord channel. All right, one of our most interactive segments of the week is the Fab Four, where Jason, myself, and producer Jenny lay out some games that we think are worth carving up time for in the North American soccer calendar for the weekend. And then also the fourth pick is where members get to have their say and will put their suggestions for the game that they want to include in the Fab Four up on the screen. That said, what's pick number one of this weekend's Fab Four, Jason?
Yeah, look, if you scan MLS and you scan the schedule and you look at the standings and you think, okay, what's on the line here? It's not all that intense in a lot of ways. Certainly the Eastern Conference. We already know every team that's going to be in the MLS Cup playoffs in the Eastern Conference. There are some things to determine in terms of jockeying for position. You obviously don't want to be in that 8-9 spot if you can help it, because those are the playing games. So Chicago's got something to play for against the Revs, and Columbus has got something to play for against the Red Bulls, and Orlando and Nashville have to be on their guard. Nashville's got Inter Miami, nearly picked that game. But I'm actually going to go out west, because there are playoff spots. Like literally qualifying for the playoffs is on the line for several teams. It is not simple. It's not win in, you're in necessarily for everybody, but there is one team that I'm kind of keeping an eye on, and that's Real Salt Lake. They're in 9th right now on 40 points. They're level with the Rapids, who are in 10th place because of that wins tiebreaker. It is RSL against St. Louis City in St. Louis. Now, St. Louis is not good. They've already made some changes this year. They said goodbye to the architect of that team, Lutz Pfannenstiel. All right, there's lots of stuff going. Olaf Melberg barely did anything. I think he won like 3 games. Olaf Melberg won more than 3 games. I don't know. St. Louis is bad. They're in 13th. They're not going anywhere. But, man, RSL does have a chance to book their place if they can win and get a tiny bit of help. And I really want to see if our guy Diego Luna, a guy who has risen on the international stage with the U.S. men's national team, who has risen as a figure. And, man, is there a player that sort of embodies the current moment of American soccer more than Diego Luna? I'm not sure there is, right? He's he's got this scrappy kind of identity. Now, look, he was always on a path to being a professional soccer player. He wasn't like playing in the street somewhere and somebody said, "Oh, that kid's really good. Let's get him into our." No, it wasn't like that. But he's got that mentality. I love what he brings to the field, the energy. So I'm hoping he can be a star, lift Real Salt Lake over St. Louis, and maybe make the playoffs.
Yeah, Diego Luna seemed like he was maybe shaping up to be the what could have been if he got called in sort of a storyline, but he has been brought into the fold and has risen to the occasion, opportunity grasped so far for Diego Luna. So that's a good shout for Fab Four. And look at that, brand new member Edward. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for becoming an MK Ultra during today's show. As your first act, throw in what soccer game you are looking at this weekend. And while you put your thoughts together for what you might watch, my pick for the Fab Four this weekend, Dallas at Vancouver. One of the few win and you're in sort of a matchups for decision day. Dallas kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel in the Western Conference for much of 2025. They've kind of pulled it together and they have an opportunity. It's in their own hands if they get a win away at Vancouver. Tall prospect. That's a big if.
Difficult. Yeah.
Big if, but it is their own hands. You know, they were totally lost in the nether for most of the year. So the fact that they're even in the conversation is something, but they have to go away to Vancouver, win. If they don't get the win, they have to do some scoreboard watching elsewhere. Not a lot of transistor radios going on decision day, like maybe on relegation day overseas.
Yeah, I don't know what the rules are on watching Apple TV on the bench while these, because remember, it's simultaneous kickoffs. There's the Eastern Conference window and then the Western Conference window with, I think, one cross conference match because of the numbers. But yeah, also worth pointing out, Rob, since you bring this up, I believe FC Dallas has been on a run since they sold Luciano Acosta, former MLS MVP. That is wild.
Yeah, that is truly, sometimes I feel like it's made up as a silver lining, but that is truly addition by subtraction in its truest sense there, with Dallas moving that player on that people already raised their eyebrows at when they acquired him and how much they laid out for him, but they realized the mistake quickly. He was moved on, bailed out by South America, right? Didn't he go to Brazil?
Yeah, he's in Brazil at this point. Yeah, there
So
seems to be a very large number of South American clubs willing to fix some MLS errors, and that's one of them.
Yeah, they've become kind of the South Americans kind of become the Middle East to bail out Chelsea. You know, bad contract, send them our way. But third pick is Jenny's. Producer Jenny, pop on in here and give us your pick of the week.
Hello there. I am going down to the USL Championship where we have a couple of games that are affecting the Eastern Conference playoff race. I'm picking my hometown team, Detroit City FC, who are traveling down south to Charleston. They need to win this game. It's a win if they're in, especially if Indy 11 loses to Loudoun United and Detroit City gets at least a point against Charleston, then Detroit City's into the playoffs. If they lose and then Indy 11 wins, it's going to come down to the final week of the season. Detroit City kind of in rough form right now, going to a very difficult road challenge against Charleston Betters, so it'll be interesting to watch. I also want to throw out a bonus from across the pond. MK Derby, Fulham against Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I don't want to talk about Fulham right now. I'm not super high on and their fixture list over the next month and a half, 2 months is not great. So I'm looking at that Wolves match in November. That's when I'm looking at things getting better for Fulham. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Fulham, but good shout in DCFC in a tough place on the field after the departure of Trevor James and co. There, things have taken a little bit of a turn to the negative behind the scenes there. It is Liverpool Man United. I think I might get sucked into that in my weekend too. But the fourth pick of the weekend is for MK Ultras. So we'll get some of your suggestions, how you're spending your viewing weekend. Matthew Sparing, MK Ultra. He's looking at FC Naples and Spokane Velocity, third versus fourth, trying to get back into first with a game in hand in USL League One. And going down to Edward. He's a Crew fan, just hoping they can look good this weekend against the Red Bulls before going into the playoffs. Soccer night in Detroit. Charleston, DCFC, Indy, Loudoun, NCFC, Rhode Island, Tampa Bay, Hartford. So a big catalog of USL games on the slate for Soccer Night in Detroit. And Huey watching Portland Hearts of Pine and looking for a win over Westchester there. And then a wooden spoon decider. Good shout from Pablo. Decider between Atlanta and DC.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a good pick.
It's a battle of the bad Uniteds. They're just terrible United. The damned Uniteds are facing off against each other right now.
In more way than one. Looks like our guests have arrived. So thank you to all our brand new memberships. Let's keep that going, and we'll have a bonus at the end of the show. We're going to talk college soccer recommendations from the Federation, but now we are going to dot the map a little bit more. Another club making the jump from USL 2 to the professional ranks. We're going to talk Corpus Christi FC up next here on Morning Kickaround. Get to know your district here on Morning Kickaround, where we get to know various teams and soccer landscapes from across the country. And we're now joined by a pair of guests from Corpus Christi FC, one of 7 new teams in the USL 1, third division of American soccer next year, making the jump from USL 2 to the professional ranks from Corpus Christi FC. I'm thankful to be joined by Director of Operations, Marissa Trevino, and Director of Communications, Iran Hami. Welcome to Morning Kickaround, guys.
Good morning, guys. Thank you so much for having us. This is a definite privilege and honor.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. We're very excited.
It
was quite popular in the office, so everybody was pretty excited when they heard we were going to be on it.
That's great. That's great. I'm not sure we were set up for a shot with 2 of you in the picture. Yeah. We're going to try to figure that out. But what matters to me. Okay. Yeah. You might have to squeeze in, personal space, not a thing this morning. First of all, congratulations on all of this. Obviously, we are sort of able to kind of watch from afar from a big picture perspective, all these clubs start up. And I know on the ground, it's different for everybody. It's a little bit of a different challenge depending on where you are. So before we kind of get into the club and ambition, tell us about Corpus Christi. Tell us about the soccer town that Corpus Christi is.
Soccer is actually a really big soccer town. Sorry. There are quite a few youth organizations here, and the talent has begun to grow locally. So as of right now, there was nowhere to play for them locally. Right. We had our kids and everybody traveling to San Antonio, to Austin, to Dallas. And that's where we kind of came into play and said, let's change this for the kids in the coastal Bend area because there's nothing around us.
There are several youth leagues around this town, so the youth game is very much growing around here. And an important aspect that we took into consideration is there are no more pro soccer teams south of San Antonio right now. So we're filling that gap right now, and we're changing the mentality for a lot of the people in Corpus Christi who haven't had pro soccer, or they're traveling to San Antonio or Houston or Dallas to go watch teams play. And now they've got one in their backyard, or even able to go pro in their backyard.
And so founded in 2017, Corpus Christi's been playing as a USL 2 team. Explain kind of like what's been the success, how many folks have been coming out to the team as a USL 2 team, and kind of what led to the decision to make that jump to pro from where you've been in the USL 2.
We were consistently in the top 10 for USL2, and the attendance was huge. Our following is the biggest in the Lone Star division. You would often hear the players from the other team like, oh man, we're in Corpus. I love coming here. Like their fan base is amazing, And of course we weren't rooting for them, but they really enjoyed the atmosphere. So it was kind of they approached Dr. Kingsley and asked him if it would be something he would be interested in moving from USL2 to USL1. I know in our most recent years with Manny Iwabuchi, our USL2 head coach, the level elevated. We were finishing 8th in the nation and number 1 in goal scoring. Like the talent and everything just continued to rise and rise and rise. And so that's when they approached Dr. Kingsley about the opportunity.
And we did just make our first appearance in the U.S. Open Cup this past season, which was a great experience for all the guys out there. And they're all having great success right now in their college experiences too.
So yeah, this that idea of filling a gap, there not being a professional soccer team anywhere in the immediate area and being a place for people to kind of come. I mean, obviously talent, we want to see players get that opportunity. But obviously it's so important that we have people who are able to kind of connect directly with a club that represents who they are. So what are the characteristics of Corpus Christi FC and like the way you guys sort of think about the club that makes it unique to the area that you guys play in?
We are, I like to say we're a very, very family oriented club. We're run by a local pediatrician and owned by a local family. And I always tell everybody we are for family by family. We go above and beyond for our players. When our players are with us, it's like they're an addition to our family. So I think that's one of the things that elevates us from other clubs is you'll see us at any time with one of our players, going to dinner, taking them out into the community. We treat them as if they're our kids.
And we give the community access to us. Like we are out in the community talking to everybody. They're talking to the director of communications. They're talking to the director of operations. They have access to just about any of us on the streets. And we're really grateful for Marissa because she's born and raised here in Corpus Christi. So she knows a lot of people. She knows her way around, been able to make connections that way. And it's just a very passionate area because if you guys don't know, Corpus Christi is 60% Latino, and you know how soccer is more popular down in Central America and things like that. So we've been grateful to have that sort of passion move up here into Texas, and we're trying to harness that now to go towards Corpus Christi FC.
So it sounds like there is a kind of a hunger and a gap to be filled in the professional realm by Corpus Christi FC. I love one of your badge, one of the most recognizable in the United States. I work in USL2, and I've never forgotten the Sharks and the Shark badge since I saw it the first time. But one of the biggest elements of this jump from pre-professional to a full-fledged professional status is a stadium venue. I see that as part of the announcements that have come out from the team is a 5K stadium plan.
Absolutely. We are building our own stadium that can actually expand. So right now we're at 5,000 and it can hold up to 15,000.
Up to 15, yeah.
So we're making it out there. We're doing what we got to do to support this team. We are finished with phase 1, which you have up on the screen are the 2 turf pitches and the 6 grass pitches. And then of course the stadium has started with phase 2, and we're almost to the finish line.
Yeah, soon you guys will start seeing, we'll have a little ceremony. Steel will start going up here in 3 weeks time to get the stadium ready for play next season. And the utilities are just wrapping up now. So we are excited about taking this next step. We broke ground on it December 2023. And so it's been a long process, but we've stuck with it. We have a great facilities manager who's been helping along the way. He's out there sweating his butt off every single day, making sure we're getting every little detail correct, fixing anything that needs to be fixed. But we are very excited. This was definitely part of Dr. Kingsley's plan to make this team sustainable. It can't just be a stadium. It has to have other avenues of revenue. So we have these fields that other teams can come rent out for tournaments. We can host lacrosse, baseball and softball are designed on our fields. We have dugouts being prepared as well. So these are very multi-purpose, and we hope to hold events in the stadium as well.
So let me ask about the Shark and the identity that Rob mentioned there. I'm a fan too. I mean, I just say that I'm somebody who appreciates that there are things that a lot of sort of more pretentious soccer fans would think are a little odd, but that makes us American, and that certainly makes American soccer fun.
Unforgettable.
Absolutely. And animals and soccer balls, to me, they just go together. So, but this is obviously a choice, right? You guys chose to stick with the branding that you had, the identity, the name from USL League 2 to move it to USL League 1, because there are lots of places where that would not be the thing. change the name and make a. In fact, we just talked to the group that's starting a club in Oregon that's going from League 2 to League 1 in Oregon, and they've changed their identity completely. So what was the thinking behind, let's stick with Corpus Christi FC, let's stick with the Shark, let's stick with the colors, let's be who we always were?
We actually left it up to the community. We wanted the community to feel like this team was for them and part of them, and we wanted them to have a connection to the team. So we put out surveys on every platform, and 98% of the people voted to keep the Sharks. And of course, there were some other suggestions like the stingrays and sea turtles because we're by the coast. But 98% really wanted to keep the Sharks.
And it was originally a fan vote that put the Sharks in place back in 2017-18.
Okay.
So that's how that got started. And I enjoy it because now that we're preparing our supporters group, we can play around with a lot of names with the Shark theme. So I'm very excited to see what they come up with.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sea turtles doesn't quite have the same bite in
Exactly,
the name, as the
exactly.
Not
Sharks
ferocious
doesn't.
enough.
I talked to the owner about it and I was like, sea turtles. I was like, I can't imagine being at the game being like, let's go sea turtles, snap at them.
I'll admit, I kind of want to be a fly on the wall when you guys do ideation. If you ever come up with like a mascot or something, a shark themed mascot seems like it'd be a lot of fun to
We are
ideate.
working on it.
We are working on it. We've been going back and forth with a company that's designing our new mascot. And we're being so picky because we're pro and we're like, nope, this is out of place. This is out of place. But it is a lot of fun creating a shark.
Yeah. So I mean, with that idea of the name, the logo, the look, I mean, I imagine all around town, people putting the stickers and the magnets on their cars, kids wearing the shirts with it all. That's a huge part of this. Obviously putting a team on the field is a huge part of this. And, I don't know how much you guys want to get into the nitty gritty of the soccer, but you do have a head coach for your League One debut. Ayman Zayed, who had been in Northern Colorado. I remember talking to him while he was coaching that team in USL before things kind of went south for them. So you guys you have a veteran coach, a guy who knows the game, who's played internationally. It's pretty great for a club in Corpus Christi.
It's very big for a club down here. Many people, we work very closely with the youth academy as well. And after our announcement Wednesday, I was at the facility yesterday with the youth portion and they were like, oh my God, we looked him up. He is incredible. Like the youth are excited. The city's excited. My Facebook, my text messages, everything is blowing up. Everybody is really excited to welcome Ayman here.
I was very glad to read about his background. We got excited about him early on and only known him for this week, but a very intelligent guy, knows his soccer, very nice, genuine, loved getting to know the community on Wednesday, took pictures with everybody, talked to everybody he possibly could. So the guy is in a great position. He's excited to get started. And I know he's already started working, even though I think his contract starts here at the end of the month.
It's great to have a coach that really jumps off the page and could really elevate the team where they at. And then also being an ambassador, he said he was talking to everybody he could. And that is a great sign, especially for a new venture such as this. You said earlier that the stadium plans and all that have been in the works since at least 2023 is when you broke ground on the stadium. So big news is broken since that groundbreaking. There is this thing coming to USL called promotion relegation. How does that announcement mid-construction project affect what Corpus Christi is doing?
Well, we've been able, I think that was part of Dr. Kingsley's plan, is he might have foreseen the possibility of expanding because of the situation in the USL. And that's what Marissa had mentioned, is that we are able to expand that stadium up to 15,000 seats. And so it has a little bit of an open concept. We're getting ready to reveal a little bit more design plans coming up, but you'll be able to see how we can expand that, but we can't go too much into details right now.
Well, okay. Well, fair enough. That makes sense. But it seems like with the landscape there, the youth interest that's already existing, the population there, the definitely not oversaturated with not very many pro teams in that region, and then a stadium coming online with plans to have different income streams from having those different outfields and whatnot. It seems like the future is bright for you in there in Corpus Christi.
Absolutely. Our future is looking really bright. Dr. Kingsley obviously put a lot of thought into what he was doing before everything was put out there. So he definitely made sure we had a plan and we were going to be able to sustain.
So what's the very
That's
next
great.
thing that fans should look out for? There's got to be a litany of announcements coming over the next couple
Oh,
months.
yeah.
What's the next
So-
thing that fans and observers should keep an eye out for?
Our home kit. We are going to do a big home kit reveal. So we're going to do our reveal with our home kit and our branding.
And it's going to coincide with a community day we're going to host at our facility. So the stadium will be underway. You'll start to see steel go up, and we're going to invite the community out to our facility, see what we're doing, see what we're about. We're going to have a 7v7 tournament. We're going to have an exhibition with one of our youth teams, one of our better ones, have vendors, food trucks, the works. Just a great night to welcome everybody in and really show them what we're about. So we're very excited for that.
Very exciting times, Corpus Christi.
Before we let you go, we have one question from the comments. Will there be a roof on the stadium?
Will there be a roof on the stadium?
Not in the near future plans, no. I know that's a problem in South Texas. I complain about it when I go to the pool because there's not enough shade at the pool. But we'll have to make do.
Well,
How does
exciting
that-
times.
So there are suites available
your
with
suite.
AC.
Oh, sweet.
So if they
Okay.
want to come watch in some AC, we do have some suites available.
Well, I see the countdown is on the website for
The countdown
going
is on the
pro.
website.
Imagine that, I don't know how much you guys like looking at that because it probably causes a lot of stress and anxiety in your lives. But obviously, it's a big moment, a big opportunity for Corpus Christi to move up into the world of professional soccer. So we're very excited. So thank you very much for making some time for us.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thank you for
guys
having
so
us.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Marissa Trevino, Director of Operations, and Iran Hami, Director of Communications from Corpus Christi FC. Thank you so much for joining us today, and definitely feel free to send over any construction or footage or videos. We'd really love to see that and see what the progress looks like of going from an amateur to a professional team. Thank you so much, and we will put Corpus Christi dotted on our map. Thank you, viewers. Thank you for all the conversation that you've added on the side here during this video and during this episode. And let's try to get a couple more members. We've hit our goal. So we're going into a bonus territory here today on Friday's episode. But we do have one more big segment with information that we've been waiting for a long time. Stick around for our final segment of the regularly scheduled program. Today's hot topic, covering college soccer recommendations from the Federation here on Morning Kickaround. All right, hot topic, one that we've been waiting for quite some time. United States Soccer Federation and the Next Gen College Soccer Committee released their white paper of recommendations of how to modernize and evolve the American college soccer system. And one of the big standouts, the calendar, but there was quite a lot to chew through in here. We've been waiting for a while, and there's quite a lot to look at.
Yeah, look, the big takeaway, this is, I don't know, there's 15 pages or something. It's not a crazy read. If you want to go read it yourself, please, take the time to do that. If you care about American soccer and college soccer, it's at ussoccer.com/college soccer. It's very simple, the URL, to read it yourself. It's been, it's also been, it's been parsed by people like Henry Bushnell over at The Athletic, and you're going to see various opinions on it kind of popping up in various social media places. There are, as you said, a couple of takeaways, big pullouts. One of them is the calendar. Right now, the college soccer calendar runs from August to December. That's it. That's all they do. August to December, they play some soccer. They race to getting enough games in so they can say, all right, you're a conference champion or you qualify for the tournament, and then they rush to the College Cup and boom, we're done. And obviously, December is not a great time to be playing that stuff anyway. Major League Soccer deals with that sometimes, but it's a thing for college soccer as well, Rob. So a different kind of idea on a calendar, which would be basically start at the same time, but take a big break. December and January, you see it there. No, basically, towards the end of the season, or to the middle of the season, rather, a big break, and then come back and finish out as you hit that second semester.
Yeah, I think that, it's always seemed weird to me the more you dig into how the mechanisms of soccer work in America and the development pathway for most of youth soccer and the club scene funnels the majority of players towards the college soccer careers And, it's all this work is a culmination is just jammed into, a 2-3 month session, which is not by any means the ideal format to play. And especially if this is supposed to be your pinnacle of your career, if you're a youth soccer player, or the launch pad to professionalism, which, a crammed 2-3 month season never really seemed ideal. And it is nice to see that that's acknowledged, because that wasn't always the case, of acknowledging that college soccer wasn't perfect as is. And the other takeaway, you've put it on screen already, outside of the calendar change, they're also proposing a regionalization of the seasons. And so they, in some sort of a calculation, get like tiered teams from those similar regions to play the majority of the games against each other, because conferences in college in the modern world are not geolocated, really. They're scattered across the country. So they're in an effort to try to enhance or reduce travel, enhance the games that they do play against worthwhile opponents. So trying to get the cake and eat it too, kind of thread the needle between keeping competitive matchups, but also not overextending schools to travel all across the country, because they are students as well, because a lot of missed classes and this and that and the other, but regionalization part of this.
One of the very first bullet points is that this is about students, right? That this should be a thing that centers the idea that these are students. Now, we do live in this world now because of the House decision, and because of NIL and all these things that have changed the way college sports work, where the idea of being a student is kind of secondary. It was before. Now it's very clearly secondary if you play a revenue sport. So that's football, basketball, in a lot of places. That's pretty much the list, by the way. That's it. And that's why those conferences that you mentioned are the way they are. Realignment is constantly happening and has happened, and has put teams in California in a conference with teams in Florida, because the idea is to maximize revenue for those sports like football and basketball. That leaves sports like soccer on the sideline in a very difficult position. Now, this is going to be something that, let's just make it clear. These are recommendations. These are not, the idea isn't, hey, this is already happening, let's go ahead and do this. This is U.S. Soccer saying, as the governing body of the sport in the United States of America, we should have some sort of role in making the college game, which is such an important part of the game's history here, but also this sort of untapped resource for developing players at a higher level. Like, it already does a little bit, because it's just there and it's a place for kids to play, Rob, as you said, but it could be much more. And I don't think U.S. Soccer is coming at this as, well, we want to get world-class players out of college soccer. They're just coming at this like, this is a thing. It's part of our culture. We're a soccer organization. We want kids to play soccer. We want kids to have opportunities to go to college and play soccer. Let's get involved. The regionalization thing is a great idea, but it's that thing about, will the schools be on board with this? Will the NCAA be on board with this potentially? Because it does impact how those conferences work. Some of it which are traditional for some of the smaller schools, and some of which are not.
But those traditions are fading each and every year. The matchups that they play between certain teams, and if you look in the finer print of this, they do allow, there's like a couple games outside of the region that they're like elective games. Yes, so they do have provisions. So if there's like a Michigan State or some sort of heated rivalry between schools, they can still have the flexibility under this recommendation to put those schools on their calendar.
Well, so it's interesting. This graphic that's on the screen from the white paper, which again is mostly about the regionalization of schools, so that you can play, as you said, less travel, less stress on not just student athletes, but budgets as well. This is also nominally a pro-rel kind of idea, right? The idea is, again, you can see it there. It says 9 teams to be determined, 9 teams to be determined. Those are supposed to sort of be the top level of teams in that general region. And then below that, you would have local leagues, which would be schools that are a little bit less competitive. So the most competitive teams, the best teams, the best schools would be in that top level, and then you would have a second tier, and presumably you could move between them. What that criteria is, I don't think that's 100% clear, but you obviously want to play the best if you are the best, and this gives that a better shot at that rather than sort of having to make up your schedule, especially out of conference.
Yeah, and if we know anything about the leadership in, American soccer in general, and especially in college sports, having them change things is difficult, and having them have some sort of admission that they are on a lower tier than anyone else is very difficult. So, getting schools to voluntarily go into the more regionalized localized tier, that might take a lot of PR work and massaging to get large amounts of people that all have their own fiefdoms to agree to these things. So we should be a reminder that this is all just recommendations, and whether this is applied or not is a whole nother story.
Yes, that's the thing, right? There's a gap between this paper coming out and any of this stuff being enacted. But I definitely think it's important to say that U.S. soccer is doing something necessary. Now, I've seen some people question the makeup of the committee, right? A former CEO of Deloitte was the leading figure, the chairman of this committee. That's going to bother some people. Did Deloitte involved in this? I don't like that. But it is... You do have to go somewhere for this. You do have to go somewhere for the expertise and the willingness to be involved in this or to push for this. Some other things that are interesting here is one, that last one. I'll put it back up. This is about pro league contracts. Over the last 5 years, the number of U19 men's and women's players signing pro league contracts across all pro league divisions has consistently risen. You can see the graph there. And then, so this is saying that younger players are signing pro contracts, which is obviously going to have a dramatic impact on college soccer. Now, some of that has been, some of that is in evidence in the number of foreign players that are involved in college soccer. And U.S. soccer doesn't say like we need to get more Americans into college soccer, because if you go look at the last couple of College Cup champions and you think about the history of college soccer recently, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of recruiting foreign players to come in and they get an education and the team gets to win on the field. And, is that a problem? I think is in the eye of the beholder, Rob, but certainly you could argue that U.S. soccer has an interest in making college soccer more attractive to American players, because there will be players who develop late, or players who don't want to go through the traditional pro path. And as you said, part of this is to connect college soccer to a pro path, if that's a thing for a player, in a way that has kind of fallen off in recent years.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff in this. And amongst the recommendations, one of the things that stood out was one of the notes that they were saying that overaged player usage should be scrutinized, but international players of the younger ages should still be welcomed and utilized. So I thought that was an interesting, tactful way to approach that, because I know some people go way off to one side, like this college soccer should only be for American players, and it's internationals are signing it. But I think that's a fair compromise to still be welcoming the international players. But the age gap, like having a 19-year-old American lose his spot because a 26-year-old who's already gone through a professional gamut, and then like as a last or a down the totem pole option has like, okay, I'll go over and play college soccer. So they do address that. I did see a question in the chat asking, this is men's or women's. They did cover both men's and women's in this white paper. We've been talking so far about the men's. On the women's side, they didn't quite have as much fleshed out. One of like the bigger additions was knowing they acknowledge that change is needed. They recommend a stretching out of the fall league, and then maybe some of the elite teams play an additional spring season, but not quite as fleshed out on the women's side. At this point,
there's a story by the aforementioned Henry Bushnell over The Athletic on this report that actually says that there is some significant pushback from within the women's soccer, college soccer community. So I do think that you can't. It's not going to be one size fits all. It's not going to be one solution works for everybody. So yes, the women's game is a little bit in a different place than the men's game when it comes to college soccer, right? Again, that's professionalization, that's academies scooping up a lot of players who might have gone to college in the past. It's obviously the international influence on men's college soccer, as you described. So I don't think that they're quite there yet with the women's game. But then, as I was saying, like, there is an amount of pushback that they have to consider. You can't just do something unilaterally. And again, none of this is going to happen unless the NCAA and U.S. Soccer come to the table and figure out, whether or not this is something that actually the NCAA wants to enact.
And hopefully that there was some conversation between this board and the power brokers and NCAA, that they have some sort of a commonality to where they'd even be receptive to this as all, or if they're thinking that this is just outside intervention that they don't want, because hopefully that there is some sort of a bridging of the gap there, because it's good to see that the federation is acknowledging that college soccer isn't being utilized to its fullest at all. Because I think that's pretty clear to see. The other bullet points we talked about, the major bullet points of this is the calendar change, the regionalization option, but the other there's quite a bit of other stuff, but basically spells out trying to clarify the path between college and the pro leagues, as well as the U.S. Federation suggesting that they could use their corporate power, their social media reach to, kind of formalize data tracking and publicity and corporate tie-ins to the college world.
That is obviously the carrot here for the NCAA is, here's a non-revenue sport that needs an overhaul pretty clearly, that is negatively impacted by a number of different pressures that are coming to bear on it. We even imagine a world in which college soccer teams are basically separate in an entity situation, a sense, from their colleges, and then they essentially become clubs. Now the players could still go to college, and maybe you find some creative way to fund their educations. I don't know how that would work necessarily, because I'm not an expert on NCAA clearinghouse stuff and all of that, and the scholarship situation. But we imagine that because it might allow for a little bit more flexibility for these college soccer teams if they are not directly tied in under the umbrella of the university or the college itself. But this is not that. This is something as kind of an in between those things. And if U.S. Soccer can help find a way to better financially support college soccer, that's the carrot that maybe gets the NCAA to the table and say, okay, fine, let's maybe do your stuff, because otherwise, if we don't do anything, it's not going to get any better.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes. I can't recall when the response is due, but I think it was by the end of the year, NCAA get a reply, but we'll have to look into that a little farther. But there was some sort of a date of we expect a reply from the NCAA on, what their responses to this at some point I think within the year, because some of these recommendations are they use a lot of words like haste and expedience, and they want to start applying these things around 2026. If this happens, it seems like it could move rather quickly. But
let me just throw out a couple of other things that I think are worth mentioning, and
Sure.
These are related to a little bit to what we talked about already with professional players and things like that. But this is eligibility questions, because traditionally in college sports, if you ever go pro, you are ineligible to be a college athlete at that point. You are now you lose your amateur status. Now, again, with NIL and payments to players, things are a little bit murkier. But in the report, U.S. Soccer suggests that the NCAA, that college soccer take a look at eligibility, because if a player say signs a professional contract at 17 or goes through a professional pathway and would usually be denied the opportunity to play college soccer, but doesn't find that pathway to their liking, or it stalls, or they still want to play, why wouldn't you allow them to go play college soccer? Now, maybe you need some you need to have some mechanism for sort of restoring their quote unquote NCAA eligibility, but that's what they're suggesting. Allowing players who have signed or under rights agreements with professional teams to pursue college competition, with the pro teams that they're attached to potentially funding some or all of their scholarship. Right. So if the player's like, well, this isn't working out for me in this academy, in this club, or I signed a contract at 17 to go pro, but I don't like what's happening for me, I want to go to college and play soccer, then maybe the club can help subsidize the scholarship and then that allowed the player to go play college soccer. But there's no issue with the eligibility. A second chance pathway for players to enroll and compete in college after previously starting a professional career that is stalled. Again, I mentioned that. Expanding opportunities for college players to train with professional teams outside the academic calendar. So this is always that thing, like, if you play with a pro, you lose your eligibility. Like, this has happened before, when a kid who's in college goes and joins a team for a summer or something and ends up playing with a professional, and now there's a whole question of about their eligibility. It's ridiculous. It's all antiquated. It shouldn't apply. It should never apply anyway. It certainly shouldn't apply now. So if a player wants to go and join a quote unquote pro team for the summer, or train with them, not play on the field, maybe not become a professional, that would be beyond the eligibility requirements for that pro team. But if he wants to train, maybe the club says, we're going to basically trial you for 2 months in the summer when you're between semesters. Why wouldn't you want that to be a thing?
Yeah, that just speaks to a larger part of like making it easier for a domestic player to become a professional. Like, why add let's remove the roadblocks. Like, that 17-year-old who's considering going pro has an easy way to say no, because, if I go and train or sign this contract, then my ability to get an education is toast through that. And that shouldn't be the case. There's so many players that, are on that edge of they could go pro in the right conditions that never really consider it too much because their youth career guided them towards college. And, that was too big of a risk to undermine all that, to give it a shot, an outside shot of, I was invited to a camp. That doesn't, really guarantee anything.
Yeah. Exactly.
And, given it's basically like taking your shot at that your one shot or not. And if this is adopted, and if that amateur, college, and professional status, cobwebs are cleared away, that would help clarify that, amateur to pro player status. Because if you track what it actually takes for an American homegrown player to go from youth player to become a professional, there is next to no clarity. You got to, globe trot, hope you have a passport, or maybe, fingers crossed that you get a college scholarship. And then when you get there, you get playing time. And then the season's limited if you even get playing time. So It's very clouded and murky. And hopefully, if these things are adopted in the right way, it will become easier for more Americans to take that shot at becoming professional players, because it is not an easy path as it stands.
One thing, and I'll bring in Mike Thomas here, his comment, straight up, just make college teams clubs. I kind of mentioned that idea that's out there. U.S. Soccer, I don't think, wanted to go to that extreme and suggest that be a fix to this, right? Just basically integrate college teams as de facto clubs, in the system of amateur soccer in America. It seems like maybe they were hesitant to do that because the NCAA, no matter whether it's soccer or lacrosse or football, gets a little possessive and provincial about these things. So I think that's probably where they went, why they didn't go in that direction. But yeah, the idea of, say, UVA playing in the U.S. Open Cup and getting a chance to play the Richmond Kickers or something is a pretty cool idea. How you enact it is a different question.
Yeah, it's a whole kettle of fish there. And from my perspective, I know I exist largely in the USL2 world, in the summer soccer world, and there was some angst of, if college soccer changes their calendar, what will happen to summer soccer? And with this new calendar, while extended, it does still leave that window. And the white paper actually name drops specifically USL2, that those opportunities will still exist. And there is still a gap in the calendar in, April, May, June, and July, when those seasons exist. So that doesn't completely eliminate that. I know some people were worried that, like, if, college teams just become clubs, then what's the purpose of summer soccer? Yes. And then if they're going year round, is there even an opportunity for players to spend time with a summer soccer season? So some provisions in there for that. And that, you just saw on screen, college teams could club USL2. Definitely it would.
The problem with all of this is that there's going to be some unintentional casualties, right? There's going to be some things that die if we reform, these kind of, it becomes a question of what are you willing to sacrifice to reform a system? And obviously there are stakeholders here on every side who are going to say, well, my version is the most important version, or I don't kill off what I do to benefit something else. Right. And I don't envy the people who have to try to deal with those competing interests when it comes to that. Right. If you are collateral damage in all of this, you're going to be very angry. That's a fact.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It's like when I brought up high-speed trains to my cousin who's a pilot. He did not like hearing that alternative at all whatsoever. But also a different theory that I heard before this white paper came out that was interesting that would change the game is if the college club team theory, if they joined MLS Next Pro, and if you had like MLS Next Pro kids who were like kind of academy pro hopefuls versus, college route guys, that would be kind of an interesting mix of competition. But that's not what's in the paper, just a kind of a thought experiment there. But plenty to digest with this college white paper. Did we cover most of all the high points? I think there's a lot to get through.
Big things. Yeah, we're over time. So now I think we can call this right now a little bit of our bonus, because we did hit our member goal today. We got three members in. Might have been 4. I'm not sure if I'm counting right.
So overnight we got Brandon, and then during the show we got Christian, Kai, and Edward. So thank you guys for getting us to our goal.
So what I thought we would do here is do a Q&A, but also let Rob tell directly, because I know you posted a video on the YouTube channel just for MK Ultras for the members, but you went out and saw what NISA is doing with their fall tournament. What did you take away from your experience, Rob?
So I went about an hour and a half north in rural Southeast Michigan to check out day 2 of the NISA Fall Cup. When we were live on the show on Monday, we got news that the very opening game of this tournament was forfeited because one of the teams, Modesto City, only showed up with 8 or 9 players. So the first game didn't go well. So I rocked up on Wednesday for day 2 to just see what it looked like, see what kickstarting or restarting a shuttered league looks like. And when I got there, I was welcomed by Josh, the comms guy, who was very nice, the CEO, Matt Morse, and I got to talk to Chandler Hoffman, the commissioner out there, and got to chat with them. Heart in the right place, but it was definitely small scale. It's an outdoor turf field, and then the games were happening there, and then in an full-size indoor facility, and games were going at the same time. It was good to see that all the games happened properly on day 2. So that was good. I should note that, Matt and those other guys were pretty dismayed that one of the teams had to forfeit in the opening game, but they were able to rebound on that. It should be noted that Modesto City, the team, had to forfeit. I watched some of their game on Wednesday. They lost 12-1 in that one to Sin City.
Yeah, look, this is where, this is where I'm frustrated. I don't like being judgy about honest efforts to make soccer
and in the
work.
video, I was trying to be as respectful as possible because I know they're trying to do a big
but
I just wanted a snapshot of what it looked like.
I'm not talking about Modesto. I'm talking about the whole thing, right? Look, maybe you cannot be sure that you are putting together clubs of equal ability when you do this, but you also mentioned something about local players being sourced by some of these teams that are coming in, which is that's not professional soccer. Right, if you're coming to town and go, we only brought 8 guys with us. We need to fill out a team. Let's go to a local park or put an ad somewhere or ask somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. Like I imagine somebody sitting down at some diner in Michigan and being like, "You guys know any soccer players?" Like that to me is not professional. Like so if this was like, oh, we're doing this amateur tournament and it's going to be very fun and we're just trying to get some things off the ground and we don't quite know what it's going to be. But nobody does that. Nobody sets realistic expectations, Rob. What they say is like, "Oh, we're relaunching," and NISA. I mean, maybe I'm overstating what they claimed, but there's certainly this notion that NISA is supposed to be a professional operation. And after what happened before, you really can't. The impression you're making is so bad that I feel uncomfortable with all of it. Like I feel uncomfortable with this. If you're not. I feel bad for Chandler Hoffman. I feel bad for all these people that are involved. And I don't know who ultimately is responsible for all of this, because is it better to say don't do this if it's going to look like this, Rob? Is that the answer? I mean, you didn't have fans. How is this professional soccer if you're not like, we're putting 3,000 people in a building to watch the games? Not even doing that. How is this professional soccer?
Well, for context of their circumstances, their application, Nice's application, is currently being reviewed by the Federation for D3 status. And
which is professional soccer in America. D3.
So they're not sanctioned yet. They're not, a sanctioned league yet, and that's for 2026. And when I asked the CEO, Matt Morris, what are we doing here now in Michigan in a central location, playing games at 9 and 12 o'clock, unsanctioned? Like, what is kind of the purpose to all this? And they said that, it's kind of a reclaim project. They wanted to have a 2025 season. They wanted to get something underway to show that it is an active, functioning league. They also had meetings on Tuesday and Thursday for kind of the standards that they're going to, almost like training sessions for the teams for their jump. Because except for Hailstorm and LA Force, these are all, amateur teams making that jump to professional. So they had some conferences, I guess, for, professional standards. And then yesterday, from what I was told, they were having similar sort of meetings as far as like what the player contracts and what, player expectations and what moving into professional status looks like there. So they're almost like it's very incubator status.
But why do this tournament? Like, why do this?
To show that they're alive was kind of the consensus of the answer.
So they have to have a heartbeat in order for the Federation to consider sanctioning them. And this is the proof that they have a heartbeat.
I don't have the answer to say if necessary. The tournament is trying to show the Federation, but show like the soccer public, I guess.
I mean, but that's the thing. That's the question is do something terrible just to prove you exist, or don't do something and make sure that you have the actual forward momentum, the wherewithal, the resources, the organization, the buy-in from clubs, the belief that you have something that actually makes sense. Now, I know part of the problem here for NISA is that they, from the very beginning, from the very inception of the idea, this was going to be a very low bar to enter into professional soccer in America. The whole point was that these are independent soccer clubs. They're allowed to choose what they want to do. They pick their own path, and we are just a body that kind of organizes games, right? This is the least aggressive approach to control of any soccer organization that claims to be professional in America. Major League Soccer is a single entity. They are super in control. That is a dictatorship. The USL, a little bit more egalitarian. We're kind of, you're a club that can buy into this league, and we're just gonna. But they control a lot of the money, the way the money flows in, the broadcast rights. We've talked about this. There are things that USL controls that are more intense than what NISA wants to be. I don't know. Again, why should anybody care about this? They have not convinced me or most people that this is a thing that should matter in American soccer, and that's frustrating. That's the case.
Yeah, I went up there to see what it looked like, and to me, if you didn't know anything about it, you'd say it was probably like a scouting tournament. Some teams thrown together for some scouts to check out. If there's any talent in the groups like that. I did feel like there was like the players, they, traveled across the country. There's, half a dozen teams traveling all across the country. It should be noted, this happened in Michigan. None of these teams are Michigan teams. And so they all traveled really far based on hope, like there's not much more than hope going on for their players. Obviously they have the passion. They're, skilled players hoping for a professional future. I'm assuming. And I don't know if that's probably what they were expecting when they got up there, like 13 plus hour bus rides was to, be in the middle of a field in rural Michigan. I don't know if that's what they expected. And one of the questions that the guys didn't really, the leadership guys didn't really have an answer is like, how are you going to fill the time? Even if everything goes perfectly to plan, how are you going to keep these teams, these players all in order and still, being able to pay their rent if the actual season doesn't start, if all goes perfectly to plan, it doesn't start until March. And so that's a lot of time in between now and then. If you're like starting now, there's a lot of dead zone period until if it all goes to plan and it starts.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I just, that part about getting to like, let's do this tournament thing. Like maybe you do have, I don't know, Rob. I don't know. I don't want to come off as a hater, but it's really hard to feel like this is a thing that needed to happen.
I wanted to be okay. So if you guys watch the video, the members only video, so you guys have access to this. You can see what it looks. If it kind of just like a snapshot with light editorials from me of what it looks like at the NISA Fall Tournament. Today's the third day. It's going on as we're talking now. Semifinals on Sunday, and then I think Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern is the NISA Fall Cup final. Members, thank you for everyone for joining the MK Ultras today. And there's a lot of content for you. Not only is this look at the NISA Fall Cup tournament, but what we talked about at the top of the show, what we've been teasing for a week or two now is our pre-produced biggest questions for USL ahead of promotion and relegation. And a lot of work went into it. And we really hope that you guys check that out as you have a sneak peek being members right now before we put it broadly public next week.
Yeah, I said this to the members in the Discord. Like, we hope that people can help us share this thing, because one thing that this represents is a different approach for Morning Kickaround. Obviously, the idea for this show originally is us to get together 3 times a week, live, interact with you, talk about what's happening in American soccer in the moment. Obviously, we've moved in this direction of being very focused on dotting the map and lower division soccer, and now USL has given us this massive gift of being able to talk about what promotion and relegation and first division soccer might look like in the United States. And I still want to be live and reactive and in the moment and off the cuff and all those things. You guys, most of that's my day job. My other thing is the radio, and that's what this is. This is just the radio on YouTube and an opportunity for Rob and I to talk about American soccer stories that I sometimes don't get to talk about on the radio. But I do want us to evolve, and I do think that we are in a position to make some things. Now, just pulling back the curtain, the last week and a half has been intense from a video editing perspective for your friend Jason over here, who knows basically how to do things, but video editing is a time suck. It just eats up your entire day. It's why I didn't get a newsletter out this week, and I'm hating myself that I didn't do that, even though nobody is going to be upset. But so this is an opportunity for us to do a proof of concept on something we wanted to do for a while, which is take some things that can be a little cleaner, again, pre-produced, a little bit more scripted, a little bit more informational. We've done the research ahead of time, and we're dropping that into one 13-minute video. And if this is a conversation starter, all the better for us at Morning Kickaround, but also for the American soccer scene writ large. So that is what this video is about. Highly encourage you to go watch it. If you are a member, watch it now, drop a comment, hit the like button, whatever. And then obviously we'll be making it live for everybody else early next week.
Thank you again to all of our MK Ultras. This content is available to you now. And thank you to our brand new members, Edward Lewis, Kai Velmer, Christian Kahu, Brandon Tinnen, and I think this is earlier in the week, Ronald Eith III. Thank you so much for joining Morning Kickarounds as a channel member, and we look forward to seeing you in the Morning Kickaround Discord server where there's great conversations happening. You can introduce yourself there, get your coordinates or your city name in, and get yourself dotted on the map. We did a lot of that, New Club Reno, putting them on the map. We got front row seats to the transition from amateur to pro with Corpus Christi. They got to go on the map, but probably the most important one is the MK Ultra channel member dotting of the map. We got 5 new ones to add at the very least, so great to see that getting populated, and can't wait to see your guys' intros on the Morning Kickaround Discord server. Always great to open up the app and see all the conversations going on, a variety of topics from local soccer, MLS, USL, and national teams. Great stuff over there. It is Friday. We've had a bumper long episode, lots to cover, plus the bonus episode here at the end. You got anything else for us before we depart this week?
No, we could do this all day. Like another new thought pops in, another new comment, but we got to go. We got to let these people go live their Friday, and we'll do the same, and we'll talk to everybody on Monday.
All right. Until Monday, everybody, please enjoy your soccer.